Hi guys, xForts here, and welcome to Chainsaw Man Chapter 99 review and discussion, as thankfully we are getting another chapter just 1 week later, which may not always happen, as Chainsaw Man is now being published in Shonen Jump Plus, which is an online magazine that gives mangaka more freedom with their schedule and flexibility compared to Shonen Jump where Chainsaw Man was previously serialized. So for now, thankfully, it looks like Fujimoto is continuing his previous weekly schedule, but if he needs a break or wants to spend more time on a certain chapter, he now has that freedom. So getting right into Chapter 99, titled Two Birds, which I'll come back to in just a moment. But first, we see Asa Mitaka waking back up in her bed, looking at her reflection, wondering if everything from the last chapter was all just a bad dream, as the last time we had seen Asa was at the War Devil's proclamation to pursue Chainsaw Man and make him vomit up nuclear weapons. And it was still a question if Asa was even alive. But right off the bat, continuing to build Asa's character and developing her situation throughout this chapter, we learn the true nature between Asa and the War Devil's relationship. And it turns out, opposing all hybrid, fiend, and pure devil theories, Asa is now something entirely new. Now forced to share her body and mind with a devil, as the War Devil did claim Asa's body, but left half of her brain intact so she would retain her consciousness. So it turns out what the War Devil had said initially to Asa, if you want to live, your body will be mine, was entirely true. Although throughout that chapter, we see what the devil really meant by that and the nuances of their situation, as well as the rules for how this coexistence is going to work. But first, coming back to the chapter title, Two Birds, which is now referring to the two consciousness within Asa. Asa was the bird in the last chapter, as well as we saw that the War Devil's devil form was a bird, or like an owl. But what I find interesting is the symbolism of Asa representing the bird, as the last chapter was titled Bird and War, mirroring chapter 1, Dog and Chainsaw, which both have multiple meanings relating to devil and human. For example, Dog and Chainsaw can be a representation of just Pochita, being a dog that is also a chainsaw, but it's also Denji's character that symbolizes the dog. From a starved stray in the beginning of the story to an obedient servant always under the control of his master. This naming scheme and symbolism is likely true for Asa as well. So this may provide some insight into the progression of her character throughout the story, as birds are often symbols of freedom, flying high in the sky above the world, free from mankind's control, which is the complete opposite of what the dog symbolized, which is all strengthening the duality between Denji and Asa before they even met, and all these seeds are being planted in just the first 2 chapters. But getting back into the chapter, as after we have that brief exposition from War Devil explain to Asa her new reality and the nature of their coexistence, we see more of how it actually works practically. So 2 minds, 1 human, 1 devil in 1 body. We have seen this before. So only one of the identities can be in control of the body at a time, and while one is in control, the other is still present in their mind and appears as a hallucination, almost like a second consciousness, providing feedback and advice while not being able to directly affect anything. Although it seems the War Devil is mostly in control, having taken over all of her body except 1/2 of her brain, so the War Devil can take control of her body at will, and this results in an appearance change as well. So the scars come back and the concentric eyes, so it's pretty obvious to other people when it's War Devil or Asa, and especially to the readers as well. Very interesting writing from Fujimoto, where we essentially have 2 characters with 1 design, so we need a little something to differentiate them. So now we know pretty much the basics of what happened with Asa and War Devil, and I think it's really cool. And at the end of the last chapter review, when we were discussing what is going to happen, I had mentioned that it's probably going to be some sort of shonen cliche. I think I aligned more with like the Tokyo Ghoul side of things, where Kaneki had hated ghouls so much, and then that he became one, he had to learn to live with what he hates the most and be sort of like repulsed by himself, but then learn that he can use these powers to protect people and even fight what he hates the most. And I kind of saw that happen with Asa as well, because the first entire chapter was just her expressing how much she hated devils. They said her parents were killed by devils and she just wished they were all disappear. So by the end of the chapter, now that she has a devil inside her, she might hate it at first, but then she might realize I have the power to get rid of them. And I thought it would kind of go something like that. But I had come to that conclusion that it was going to be a trope, because I had also mentioned that Fujimoto has never tried to reinvent the wheel when it comes to shonen manga, which is really smart of him. Rather, he's perfectly okay with retreading certain shonen tropes and cliches that have been done time and time again. Rather, Fujimoto finds his individualism as an author in everything besides the foundation, in the relationships, the pacing, the art, just how everything sort of coalesces and works together, which has earned Chainsaw Man that title of the not jump like jump manga, all that stuff. And now that we see what Asa has become and the way he's writing her character, it's proven that Fujimoto is at it again, and he's following that typical shonen structure, and that's okay. It's okay to retread that territory. That's part of a genre, is like exploring those same ideas. And I just love the way Fujimoto does it, like so blatantly, but also so uniquely, so it's so distinctly Chainsaw Man. As the way War Devil and Asa talk to each other, and their whole dynamic so far is that negative personality personality living inside your body, almost acting like a devil on your shoulder, and in this case, quite literally. And she can also just take control at any moment. The most obvious inspiration being one of the manga's contemporaries, actually, in a manga that Tatsuki has said he's read before, which is Jujutsu Kaisen, the relationship between Yuji and Sukuna, which is still an interesting dynamic and a great foundation for Fujimoto to build upon and find his own individuality in that idea. But continuing on in the chapter and confronting one of the only questions left, which is, why did War Devil let Asa live? Why did it let her remain conscious and even still have control over the body sometimes? Which is to have Asa go about her daily life and continue attending school in order for the devil to get close to Chainsaw Man while blending in with society. As it's confirmed that Denji does go to the same high school as Asa, so we're gonna be seeing him pretty soon, because the War Devil, in their efforts of tracking down Denji, found one of his uniform buttons in the hands of a devil and tracked it down to the same school, and this was probably the reason why that devil chose Asa as well, just trying to find some sort of student that maybe doesn't have any parents left or no one would notice her acting a little bit differently. So it looks like Asa was actually targeted by the War Devil as well to gain access to the school, so a bit of a premeditated plan it had there. So everything is just really coming together, and in the last chapter, I had predicted, which I'm still standing behind, is that before Chainsaw Man and War Devil meet, Denji and Asa will meet, unaware that they're both devils and possibly even becoming friends. As long as there's no oh, I can sense that person's a devil bullshit going on, because that's just boring. So for example, Asa and Denji cross paths at school and they become friends. For whatever reason, they find solace in each other's despair or have some sort of commonality. Okay, cool. Time passes, they become friends. Eventually, whether Asa and the War Devil are stalking Chainsaw Man's tracks trying to find him, at some point they witness Chainsaw Man either transforming out or into Denji. And then immediately in that moment, Asa's gonna have that cognitive response of being oh shit, Chainsaw Man is my friend Denji, and then immediately War Devil's gonna take over being I need to kill that person, that's my target, Chainsaw Man, boom. Asa's gonna have no response. Inside she's gonna be War Devil, stop attacking Denji, that's my friend. And then Denji is going to see War Devil coming at him very violently, literally apocalyptic devil. And in Denji's mind, he's probably gonna notice the appearance change of the facial scars and the circle eyes, and he's gonna be that's not my friend Asa. That's a devil controlling my friend Asa. So then Denji's gonna have that response of being how do I defeat this person? Do I fight this person? Do I want to hurt my friend? Was Asa ever my friend in the first place, or was she just another devil trying to get close to me? But Asa's gonna be trapped inside the mind, not being able to communicate any of this to Denji. And it could totally parallel the way that Aki was controlled by the gun fiend, and Denji had to fight this person who looked like his friend but wasn't at all. And oh, that'd be such a sick parallel. And I could just totally see that happening of Denji being there's two sides to that, where Denji's did I really get burned again? Finally a girl liked me and she's another devil that's trying to kill me, but he doesn't know that inside the real Asa's God, I feel so bad, I don't want to kill Denji. So that would be pretty cool, a nice complexity between those two characters and their internal thoughts and what they might be thinking in that situation. And another possibility is that they still meet and they become friends, and Asa and Denji are friends, but they don't know each other's identities. But Asa really does want to kill Chainsaw Man, because in this chapter, War Devil says that I'll give you your body back if we kill Chainsaw Man. So it could then play out similar to the previous theory I had, where they become friends unknowing of each other's devil powers. And then when she realizes, Asa has to make that decision of do I want my body back, or do I care enough about Denji to not kill him? Something like that. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think it would be really boring. The first time they interact, it's just Denji fighting War Devil, and there's no emotional relationship between Denji and Asa. I think that would be really lame, unless Fujimoto has something even better and crazier in store. But knowing Fujimoto, it'll probably be something more unpredictable, so I'll just wait and see. But that is more than enough theorizing for now, so getting back into the chapter when Asa and Devil are walking to school, and all of this exposition that we've been discussing and all these revelations have kind of been happening as Asa just goes about her daily routine because the War Devil asked her to. It's yeah, wake up like normal, eat, and go to school. And then when we get to school, she's and this is why I kept you alive, we gotta find Chainsaw Man. But it's when we arrive at school that we see the first returning character from Chainsaw Man Part 1, which is Yoshida Hirafume.
Oh, golly.
Everyone's favorite e-boy looking octopus man is returning, and he is also going to school with Asa and Denji, which is even more exciting. I know that Fujimoto had said that Hirafume would be returning. He might have even said that he was going to be a major character. And so many questions, so many more things I want to learn about him, because in Part 1, he went toe-to-toe with Quan Chi. He was super strong, contracted with the octopus devil, and he was also really close to Kishibe. So just so many questions with Hirafume, and I can't wait to see more unraveled about his character and just see more into him throughout these coming chapters. Now we just need Kobene and Kishibe to come back at some point, and I'll be happy. And Power, please find a way to bring her back. I miss her. And Aki, and Angel Devil, and Himeno, and Beam, and Violence.
1 hour later.
Kusakabe even. I'm just sad now. But back to Hitofume, he continues to have that rule of cool personality, but not too dismissive or outwardly rude. He just seems like a genuinely good dude, who's well put together and focused on himself while not putting others down. As he approaches Asa, it's out of concern, asking if she's okay, if she needs to go to the nurse's office, just noticing this girl in distress. And even when War Devil takes over Asa's body and immediately tries to seduce him, he's just like, nah, I'm good, which doesn't even come off as rude, as Hitofume is really just on his Sigma male devil hunting grind set, apparently. And briefly during this interaction, when War Devil is in control, she very blatantly comes out asking about Chainsaw Man, saying, does he go to the school? Where is he? Do you know who he is or whatever? And we know that Hitofume has a bit of a past with Chainsaw Man, but he didn't lead on too much. He just says, I heard a rumor he might be going to the school, and just like laying really low. So it's cool as the reader perspective, being like, we know Hitofume, he's kind of like laying cool, and there might be some like deeper meaning about why he's at school in the first place. So this interaction may be relevant in the future, as well as how Hitofume had noticed a pretty obvious personality and appearance change when War Devil took over, something Hitofume, an experienced devil hunter, would take note of. And their conversation ends there, so maybe when he noticed that personality change, he got a little suspicious and didn't want to reveal too much. And as Hitofume walks away, the War Devil kind of explains to Asa why she was trying to seduce him in the first place, and sheds some light on the true nature of her powers, saying, I have the power to turn what's mine into weapons, and that if Hitofume fell for her, she would be able to turn him into a weapon. I assume turning someone into weapons is what happened in the previous chapter with Spinal Cord Tonica and the Prez hand grenade, although War Devil didn't necessarily own them, so maybe they were just so weak and beneath her she felt they were already hers to take. Or she's referring to something entirely different, and maybe if she has someone under her control in an emotional sense, she can turn them into a sort of soldier or subordinate of war, which would fit the theme of War Devil, as well as it would continue the theme of Fujimoto's destructive femme fatale villains, as she claims she needs more weapons to go to war with Chainsaw Man, although we don't quite know what that means, if that's physical weapons, or maybe she like actually will like build an army of like all of these people under control, and she's just like the head girl boss. But keep in mind, Asa is still very shocked by this situation and not really okay with sharing her body with a horseman of the apocalypse, as expressed by her inner monologue, stressing out over the severity of her new circumstances, ultimately landing on the conclusion that she needs a devil hunter to help get the War Devil out of her body, although War Devil immediately shuts down the idea, revealing that their thoughts are connected. So Asa really has no other choice but to obey, with no other hopes of conspiracying against this person living inside her, because she'll always be on the same step or one step ahead of her. But War Devil does offer her one option, which is to kill Chainsaw Man and get her body back, which is a pretty tempting motivation. And this brings us to the final pages of the chapter at the school's devil hunting club, which Asa, of course, will be joining as they try to get closer to Denji and find the true identity of Chainsaw Man. And we're set up proper for our first arc of part 2, which is a classic shonen 3-person team-based assignment of resident devil hunting, where we see Asa is partnered up with none other than Hitofume, and a brand new character who is like extremely cute and already in the running for best girl, like Tom Girl vibes. So really excited to see more from her and whatever devils she might be contracted with, as well as if Hitofume is still the octopus or if he has more devils up his sleeve. And that brings us to the end of the chapter. Really exciting stuff this week, shorter than last week's. That's just because last week was the series premiere almost coming back into serialization, and it was around 53 pages, when this week's was 25, more in line of like a typical Shonen Jump chapter. Before the post-chapter discussion, there's just a few things I gotta talk about. So I really love how earlier when we were mentioning how Fujimoto is totally okay with retreading tropes and just doing typical shonen shit, bringing like a Team 7 vibe of like a 3-person class assignment, one of the most typical shonen things ever. I kind of love how he's like leaning more into the shonen elements in part 2 of Chainsaw Man more than part 1. But the whole Team 7 vibes in this assignment leads me into the other thing I wanted to mention, which is Hitofume and what are his true intentions at school. I saw people being like, oh, he's like a spy, or he's like, you know, there to like keep an eye on Denji or something, or maybe he's like a bodyguard. I definitely think Hitofume is just going to school because he is like a teenager, but I think there is going to be like a little bit more to that, because Hitofume is like a serious dude. Head to head with Quan Chi. He's like Kishibe's right-hand man, like super talented devil hunter and just like really powerful. So it's going to be interesting seeing how he reacts to the War Devil, because he's already got to be a little bit suspicious from their interaction earlier when her face changed and her personality changed. Hitofume wouldn't just forget that. So now that they're partnered up and they have to spend a lot more time together, I bet Hitofume is going to start picking up on like those small notes of like this, there's something off with this chick, and maybe even some like devil activities going on. So really excited to see how their relationship progresses, and if Hitofume might actually be like the first enemy of Asa. And oh gosh, the way this chapter played out, in the last chapter, it felt like Asa Asa, we were getting like the origin of the antagonist of the part. Like, oh, this is how the War Devil came to being, and this is who we're gonna have to fight. But now after this chapter, now I think Asa is genuinely going to be the protagonist of Chainsaw Man Part 2. And Denji's he's not gonna be the antagonist. War Devil's obviously still kind of the antagonist, but it's kind of like that Jujutsu Kaisen thing where you have the villain and the hero in the same body. But yeah, Asa definitely, like, if you would have asked me last chapter, I would have been like, yeah, we see Denji next chapter. But this chapter, still like progressing that story of Asa, definitely making me feel like she's gonna be the focus and the protagonist of this entire part, essentially. I'm sure Denji will come in at some point, but he might play a completely different role from what he did in part 1. And the last note for this chapter is between Asa and Chainsaw Man. Is Chainsaw Man Asa's salvation or her means of survival? And what I mean by that is the conflicting motivations Asa had in this chapter. Initially, when she was being exposed to all the things the War Devil had planned, she thought, I need to find a devil hunter. I need someone that can kill this person so I can get my body back. So and that means maybe she'll look at Chainsaw Man as someone I need to befriend and someone that will be able to help me. Or now that War Devil has proposed that, hey, if we just kill Chainsaw Man, then you'll be able to get your body back. So I think Asa's going to be pulled in those two different directions. Do I want Chainsaw Man to save me, or do I kill Chainsaw Man and save myself? So I think that's a really interesting conflict Fujimoto has built up so far, and I can't wait to see where that goes. And that can only grow if Asa and Denji become friends. Then like those two decisions are amplified to 1,000. And I think that's what's going to be really exciting about this part. We'll have to see if that happens in future chapters. So for now, guys, thank you all so much for watching Chainsaw Man Chapter 99 review and discussion. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you thought about the chapter down below in the comments. And I'll see you guys all hopefully next week if we get a new chapter. So yeah, like the video, subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you guys all real soon. All right, peace.